Hi, welcome to the Mama and a Manse podcast. I'm coming to you from rural Nebraska, and you can find me on Ravelry, Instagram, and Gmail as Mama and a Manse. My real name is Christy. This is my husband, Michael.
Hi.
He's the pastor in the Presbyterian Church. A clergy home is called a manse. We have 5 kids, so that's where Mama and a Manse comes from.
You're right.
I'm totally blanking. You're distracting me so bad. Make sure that you head over to the Ravelry group and introduce yourself. We have a giveaway going on. When we reach 50 subscribers on YouTube, we will be giving away this United States Monument themed knitting bag. It's folded in half, from Dawn of the Codependent Knitters and the Knit's Best Thing on Etsy. And I will be pulling from the introduction thread for that giveaway after we have reached 50 subscribers. You can go over there and add any goals that you have for 2018 that are yarn related. And also prizes will be drawn for those every month. And I think that's all the administrative stuff.
Did a great job.
Oh gosh. So I sometimes will have a Knitting with Kids segment of the podcast, and in fact I will have one of those today. But even though he's like my 6th child, we decided not...
I was her first child.
We decided not to stick Knitting with Husbands into the Knitting with Children segment, just to keep it separate, and also because it's now after bedtime, even though we were hoping to podcast during the day. What are you doing?
This is just me. I do this all the time.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so moving on. I have one finished object this week. These are the Restfeber socks by Knitting Expat. They're from her Wanderlust collection, and they are super hot off the needles. Like an hour ago, I have not woven in the ends, but they are long. I wanted to make them tall enough so that when I wear them, just a little bit of the top will peek out of my boots. When I podcasted last week, I was here, so made it this far during the week. And these are out of Knit Picks Stroll Tweed in the Thirst Heather colorway. I don't know if you can read the little, there we go. And so I just need to weave in my ends, and those are all finished. I think last week I forgot to mention that I also did a different kind of toe. I prefer the look and feel of the rounded toes, but of course knitting toe up, you usually have the wedge toe. So I actually found somebody's notes on Ravelry and changed it up for how many I usually knit down to and my size, and did my make ones 3 in and 1 in alternating so that they weren't on top of each other, and I'm really liking how those turned out. So I will probably do those most of the time when I do toe up from now on. And for my heels, I did the garter stitch heel that Mina Knitting Expat has in the pattern. For my mistletoe kisses, if you've watched some of my previous podcasts, those socks, I did the garter, I think I said garter before. I did the German short row. In the mistletoe kisses, I did German short row, but they were in garter. So I prefer this a lot better. It feels like it fits me. The other felt really shallow and not as stretchy to me, but I'm just trying out all of the things. These are going to be a lovely addition and will look nice with my boots. So I am very happy with those. And I'm happy they're done, because even though I wanted them really long, it kind of got to where felt like I was on Sleeve Island, because they are as long as my arms. So I'm glad those are off the needles and done with. And that's my only FO this week. I have a couple of whips. No, I have one whip. So this is the part where if you don't want to be spoiled on the Cozy Up with Stitch and Sisters mystery knit along, then you should look away. I will be showing you up through...
Spoiler alert, folks.
Up through clue 4. So, here, cover up your face. Here is all of... This was part of clue 3. All the way back. Somewhere in here, right here, is where clue 3 finished up, and then clue 4, which is a mirror of clue 2, I think. I had a bit of a mishap this week. I had started, was it clue 3 or clue 4?
3.
Yeah, so it was clue 3 last week. I'm so confused on what day it is. The blizzard has really, like, messed me up.
It's Tuesday.
Thanks. That's great.
Taco Tuesday.
Oh my gosh, we didn't have tacos.
It's spaghetti. It was delicious.
So, after I got clue 3, right after I podcasted the last time, I started on it and got, I think, up to here somewhere. And sit it down. And we have a 3-year-old who likes to get into everything and destroy everything. And it was totally my fault because I left the scissors out.
It was your fault. I mean, I might have been the one watching the child.
So I had a rude awakening the next morning when Mike was saying, Isaac has cut your shawl. So it wasn't really a knitting attack, but a 3-year-old attack. And if you follow me on Instagram, you've probably already seen, but he cut a nice big chunk right in here. What I ended up doing was taking it back out, up to the lace and down to this purple. And actually I ended up taking the purple out. So I was actually down to this eyelet garter section. Took it all out, knitted it back up, and I was going to do the garter. Don't look at me like that.
I look at you like that from the other side of the room all the time.
I know, and that's why I'm always distracted when I'm trying to podcast. I wanted to try to do, I guess I'm showing you the wrong part. It was, whatever, it was down here. I wanted to do garter, basically duplicate stitch to join the 2 areas back together. And so it would match the garter that is right here. But then looking at it on both of my needles, I could not figure out how to do that. So I just went in every other stitch across, and it is joined. And truthfully, I don't think anybody should be close enough to be able to tell that there's not garter stitch there. It is actually just, there's like a string going through every other stitch. I don't know. You might be able to tell. But anyways, I am caught up. That is one of my goals for 2018. My list is in the Ravelry group, and you can add yours as well. One of them was to finish this on time, and I'm well on my way. I have finished clue 4. I'm ready for clue 5, which is the last one. And this is living in my poinsettia bag from Dawn at the Knits Best Thing, and also from Codependent Knitters, and she is sponsoring the giveaway that we have for the introduction thread for when I hit 50 subscribers, which is very, very sweet of her.
This video will probably bump it up.
Or everyone will unsubscribe.
I don't see that happening.
Okay, so do you have a whip that you would like
I
to
do
share?
have a whip.
Okay, would you like to share your whip?
This is my first whip.
You're showing the inside of it.
They don't know.
Yes, they do. They're knitters, or they wouldn't be watching this.
I don't know. This is a hat. Goes on your head. gonna go something like that someday. I've done about 10 rows.
I don't know. Count them.
I don't know how to count the rows.
They're the V's. 9.
9, almost 10.
They also know how to count. So he's doing the same thing that Emma did with the Hufflepuff hat that she shows in her section. It is bulky weight yarn that is just being knit all the way up. Mike wanted to do his own cast on, so I also taught him the German twisted cast on. How was that?
It was good. I mean, it was interesting. It was neat to do. I was a little scared at first. It took me a little while. I might have done most of it with my tongue hanging out because I was really concentrating. There might have been a picture of that on Instagram.
Yes, you can find that on Instagram. Yeah. And actually, he's doing pretty well. I had to fix one stitch, and then there were a couple that were split in the last one, but he hasn't dropped any stitches or done anything super crazy. There's a few that are loose. How are you doing on tensioning the yarn?
I think I'm getting better. It's actually gotten a little looser as I've gone along, which has made it easier to knit. The main thing I'm having a problem is the dark yarn with that color needles.
Yeah,
it's kind of hard to show up.
A good choice.
And the yarn seems like it's splitting really bad.
Yeah, I think it is kind of splitty. Because Emma kind of did the same thing, and even when I've like fixed stuff or whatever, it is pretty splitty.
Yeah, but it's been fun.
He's starting to get into my good yarn.
Yes. I think we should share yarn.
I don't.
We share everything else. We share our lives together, my dear.
And our insanity. Okay, so I think that's all of the current whips that we have today. I will be going over, I think 30, oh yeah, we forgot to get the temperature blanket out. 30 old whips that we dug out today. But for now, we're going to move on to the yarn porn section. So this was another Crazy Sock Lady yarn swapper thing, and these minis are from Truly Hooked, which is a dyer in the UK. And lots of cute little goodness to go in my pinwheel scrap blanket. Those arrived
this week. That's the United Kingdom.
Oh my gosh. Can I just like edit you out? Oh my gosh. And also this came today from Turtle Pearl.
Oh, who got you that?
Some dude.
Must have been a pretty awesome dude.
What's the actual name of this? Do you remember?
No, I just paid for it.
I can't remember what the actual name of this is, but it is Glitter Rainbow and has a green mini for the toe. And that's from Turtle Pearl, and that's in Canada. Oh yeah, I forgot we're wearing our Canada shirts. I was going to wear my Canada shirt because I feel like I could be a proper Canadian after the blizzard that we just had. And then he copied me. It wasn't that interesting, but I just thought I would.
The interesting thing about these Canadian shirts that we have, we bought them in America.
Both of them?
I'm pretty sure.
Oh yeah.
We went to Canada like how many years ago?
5?
Yeah.
No, Lizzie was
born.
So 5.
Was she 1 yet?
Yes. Yeah. It was the next year after she was born.
Yeah. So we went to Canada. It was awesome. It was a very, very nice trip. We crossed over at International Falls.
Yes. And
then we drove down the Trans-Canadian Highway to Thunder Bay on Lake Superior. Little geography lesson for you.
What he didn't mention was that we had no idea that it was Canadian Thanksgiving. And so we went, and there was literally nothing to do. There was nothing open. And they really, really questioned us at the border, and we could not figure out why until we like got to our hotel, and there was like, oh, Canadian Thanksgiving dinner the next day or something like that in the buffet, and then we found out that that's why nothing was open.
Yeah. Well,
And
we
so
went to the one place.
Yes, but we couldn't get souvenirs there, so we crossed the border and then went to the Canadian store that was actually in Minnesota. But it says Canada A, so...
And mine says Canada. And then this is the Canadian flag.
If Jamie watches this, she's going
to
think
love it.
You were the biggest
love
idiot
it.
in the world.
She's gonna love it. Hi, Jamie.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Is that one of the Stitchin' sisters?
Yes. That you know the names of
I think I just know Jamie.
podcasts. It's so strange.
You watch them a lot. I mean, while I'm slaving away around the house.
Or while I'm feeding our child.
Oh, yeah.
I do that too. Okay, so the last section that I'm going to do before I kick him out of here because he's extremely distracting.
In other words, when everybody turns
Oh
off.
my gosh.
What'd you do?
I threw my bag and it hit that stupid car and it started going. Okay, so Suburban Stitcher, Diane, sponsors a Rainbow Along, and I believe that it's going to be in February, and so I've kind of been looking at all my rainbow yarn to see what I have and what I want to do because I want to join in on that. And so I came up with quite a few options. I, of course, have this that I got this week that I could use, probably for some vanilla socks. And I also have the What Does It Mean, which is a big stripe of gray and then the rainbow in it. That could also be vanilla socks. And I have this lovely, those were both from Turtle Pearl. I have my rainbow sock blank, which I've never knitted from a sock blank yet. This is from One Twisted Tree, which is
the Prairie Girls.
Danny from the Prairie Girls. This is so awkward.
Do they watch?
I don't know that Danny knows. Susie knows.
Hi, Susie.
Oh my gosh. And I also found this yarn that
and if you're not the Susie we're talking about, but your name's still Susie, hi. How you doing?
Oh my gosh. So there's some more sock yarn that I could do. So those are some options that I have for just some vanilla socks. Go away, curtain. And I also have this, which I counted all the blended colors, and there ends up being 6 because you're supposed to have at least 6 or 5 colors of the rainbow. I think there's not yellow in this was the one, but I'm definitely going to do these because I really need some yoga socks. It is freezing in the yoga studio that I go to because the heat's not on all the time. And so, super cold, and it's been really cold here anyways. But these will be perfect. These are from Lion Brand. It's a free knitting pattern. The amazing Sausalito stirrup socks. And this is the amazing Lion Brand yarn. The colorway.
Moana Wow.
That's not how you spell Moana.
What do you think it is?
I have no idea. Mana?
I've heard it both ways.
Okay. Then this picture is in black and white, so you can't really see it very well. Oh, here's a little bit bigger picture. This is the Dancing Cranes stole, I guess it's called. And I actually saw this when we were on vacation this year, and we were in Peoria at the Fiber Universe, and they had a sample in there that was knit out of this yarn. And this is Silk and Pearls Lace by Neon Unicorn Studios. And their sample was knit out of this, and I believe her name is Munchkin Mama on Ravelry, had added beads to it and has on her project notes how to do that. And so that's what I bought this intending to do. So that's an option that I have. after I finish my yoga socks. And then another option I have, I'm not sure that this picture shows it really well, but this is the Roche All by Boston Gin on Ravelry. Also, her name is Jennifer Lassonde. Oh my gosh, how many impressions are you going to do while we're doing this? So, the Roche All, I was thinking, oh, I actually grabbed the wrong one because I meant to do Danny's yarn in the Take the Black. This is actually 3 Irish Girls, but...
That was my Irish accent.
Oh my gosh. Similar, but Danny's yarn is more tonal, but I brought the wrong one in here. I was thinking about doing the Midnight Cravings Over the Rainbow mini set for the different colors. So, if you have an opinion on what I should do after I finish my yoga socks, what other rainbow things that I should do, let me know. Because I am having a hard time narrowing it down, and this is 8 projects. I don't think that I'm going to do that many projects in February. But the rainbow just grabbed me and got me inspired, and I wanted to do all the things. Okay, so I think
You could do it while you eat Skittles.
I could.
And then you could taste the rainbow.
I could. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I think it's time for the Reverend to go and do something else while I finish the rest of the podcast without the peanut gallery here.
I'm probably going to drink.
Oh my gosh.
Water.
Okay, so you can say goodbye now. Do you want to say goodbye, or do you want me to just turn it off?
How should I close this up?
I don't know.
Stay classy, internet.
Okay, and now we are to our Knitting with Kids segment this week, and I have my little co-host here. Do you want to introduce yourself?
My name is Emma Hill. I am 9 years old, and I really like to knit.
Okay. What would you like to share today?
I actually made this hat last podcast night that I just finished the top of it, and it is my Hufflepuff hat.
Try it on.
Here it is.
Looks pretty good, doesn't it?
Mhm.
So, have you worn it at all?
I've worn it to school a couple of times, and I wore it like twice outside today.
And did you sleep in it?
Yeah.
What did you learn from making this hat?
I learned that deep creases were 2 on 1 stitch, and that everything won't be too easy every time.
What do you mean?
I don't know by that.
Okay. Okay, so she finished this, I think, the day after we podcasted last time. Might have been the same night, but
Yeah, it was
I
the
can't
night.
remember.
It was.
And then immediately she did what?
I started my Ravenclaw hat.
So this pattern is Ribberoni. It's a free pattern on Ravelry, and it is the pattern that I really made like a million hats out of when I first learned how to knit. It was my first hat pattern. I really enjoyed it. It's really good for pretty much everybody. And this time with the Hufflepuff hat, I cast on for all of the kids and then did the first row just because it's, you know, usually tighter and a little more difficult to knit with, and then Emma did the rest. including weaving in her ends. I showed her how to do it, and then she finished it up. And so this time, this was bulky weight. It was Knit Picks Mighty Stitch, I think. Can't remember. And this is worsted weight. So she's doing the youth size, and it just has a neat little rib. For her size, it's 4x1. In some of the other sizes, it's like 4x2 or 4x6. There's just differences. I would definitely recommend that pattern. This time, Emma cast on. She learned how to cast on for this. And I taught her the not easiest one in the world.
Pearl stitch.
But we did the German twisted cast on. How was casting on?
At first it was like I couldn't get to hold my yarn right, but then I eventually got it, and then once I got to know how to hold it, it was a lot easier.
So she cast on all 80 stitches herself. We did some practices. I showed her how. And I chose to go with the German twisted cast on because of its stretch. And I feel like that's one that you can use for almost anything. So we went ahead and did that, even though there were probably easier cast-ons that she could have done for her first one. And truthfully, she cast on 80 stitches without a lot of trouble, and I didn't have to supervise her the whole time. So I think it worked out pretty well. But this way we don't have to worry about there being a constriction at the bottom of her hat if I had taught her something that had less give, which is what I was kind of worried about. It being her first time and it being something that needed to stretch over her head. And then because there are purl stitches in it, the Hufflepuff hat was just straight knitting the whole time, and so she also learned the purl stitch. And once I had showed her all of this, she's done all of this completely by herself. I have not had to fix any mistakes or, keep track of her. She's just been going to town, and it's looking really great. There's no drop stitches, and there's no split yarn. I haven't even seen any twisted knit stitches.
What's that?
When you go in it a different way, it kind of makes it look different. It twists the stitch a little bit. But truthfully, I think this is looking fantastic. So she will have another hat to wear before long. Are you going to make something for every Harry Potter house?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to do Gryffindor next. And then Slytherin.
So you're going to make something that's Slytherin?
Yeah.
Okay. You also found a project today that you want to do soon.
It was Harry Potter bookmarks.
So they look like little scarves for each Harry Potter house, little bookmarks. They are, I believe, calling for thread. And so that may be a while, or maybe we could do fingering weight. That seems like quite a bit smaller than the stuff that she's working on. But going down to the worsted weight has not seemed to bother her at all. In fact, I think, are you going faster on this one? Which, of course, you already know the knit stitch, so that helps. But
yeah, I can go pretty fast on it.
How do these needles and yarn feel compared to the bigger ones that you use for the other hat?
It doesn't feel different to me at all, really.
Okay.
It just, like the bulky yarn, I think, actually I couldn't go as fast as with it for some reason, but I can go like really fast with that one.
Are you still dropping your yarn instead of holding it in your fingers?
Yeah.
So that seems to be the only issue that she hasn't figured out. Though, truthfully, I think there are a lot of adults who learn how to knit and kind of do that without tensioning the yarn at first. I think that's something that will come with time. I do also think that her age makes her a little bit more excited to go. Both the other children showed them, I think, in episode 4. Elizabeth and Isaiah haven't worked on their hats at all. They are interested, but electronics are more interesting to them, and so they haven't made any progress, so they haven't been on the podcast again. But I think 9 years old, she really seems to be able to go on her own. I guess you're almost 10. You'll be 10 next month. Less than a month. And so that seems to be kind of a, you're going out of the camera, chick. Gotta stay over here. That seems to kind of be the magical age where it's...
11 is the magical age.
You're kind of self-motivated, because I haven't really...
Double digits. That's why.
I haven't really had to be like, oh, we need to sit down and knit and I need to concentrate on it. She's just kind of done it on her own. And she seems to be able to watch a little bit of TV and knit at the same time. So the other kids, when they make progress, will be on here. But if they aren't really interested until they're a little bit older, then we'll see. Lizzie just turned 6 and Isaiah will be 8 soon. So there's a little bit of a maturity level and age difference there. So, anything else?
Not that I can think of.
All right. Okay. I apologize if the first segment was extremely disjointed between the kitties playing with the lamp that's behind the camera and the fact that my husband was in the podcast. I was having a really hard time keeping a straight face and remembering what I needed to talk about. So if that was a little bit nuts, then I apologize. And there are kittens all over the place, so they will probably be distracting me again. Okay, so this week I was going to go over all of my kind of languishing whips. Some have been languishing for longer than others. All of them are less than 6 years old, or are up to about 7 years old. Something like that. We moved to Dubuque, Iowa for seminary in 2011 when I was pregnant with our now 6-year-old. And everything, as I'm looking around, was made in Dubuque or here in Nebraska. So that's how I know everything is less than that. But there are several things that are as old, if not older, than our 6-year-old. So I'm going to start with the most recent and kind of go through what I've done and what I'm, going to finish, what I'm going to get rid of. One of my goals for this year is to really purge our whole house. And so this is kind of the whip purge. My crafting goal that's related to this is that I will not have any of the same whips that I have at the beginning of the year on January 1st, 2018 that I have on January 1st, 2019. Other than maybe my scrap yarn blanket. I don't know that that will be all the way done by then, but that is a new thing and I'm okay with that. I'm going to go through whether I plan to frog it or get rid of it or complete it. There are some things that I'm undecided about, so if you have an opinion after seeing some of those things, let me know in the comments or over on the Ravelry section. The show notes will be up, and you can put those comments there. There's a cat between me and the lamp. I apologize. I thought I was getting better at this, but apparently I am not, and I don't do well with distractions. Okay, so probably the thing that I've worked on the most recently is my pinwheel scrap blanket. Sorry, I've got to move this or the kittens are just going to keep climbing on it and crinkling it. And I have to fix the lamp because it's now knocked over. Sorry about yet another interruption. Okay, so the pinwheel scrap blanket, I have some of these I've shown you. Some of them are starting to get their ends woven in. This one has its ends woven in, but it has not been blocked and they haven't been trimmed. My husband was helping me with that. And these are old like scrap yarns that I've had. This is from the row one, the first month that I did that club membership, and I believe this is Twisted Owl. And then this one I just have like a little tiny bit of another section done right there. But this is definitely one that I'm going to keep working on and do throughout the year. I'm really excited about that. I have a couple of nuggets of yarn left from my socks that I showed earlier that I will be adding to the stack for that. And I keep forgetting what I was going to say, so probably the next one I have is my long line cardigan. Excuse the zipping sound. This is from Joji Locatelli. And let me tell you, I'm super glad that I was just able to say that without my husband here, because he had a joke planned for if Joji came up. But this is the sweater. And this is what I have done so far. I think it's this way. I believe this is the back of the collar. And I've shown this previously. I have not worked on this since I had my surgery at the beginning of November. But it is, once the sister shawl right now, I just finished Clue 4, well, I finished Clue 4, and I also finished the Knitting Expat monthly socks. So that's probably something I will be working on in conjunction with the yoga socks, because I really need those and I want those to get going immediately. But this will be the other thing that I am working on in the near future. Also put on hold because of my surgery were my swirly socks by Susie White, or Prairie Girl Susie, from Prairie Girls Knit and Spin podcast. It's audio. And I put these down simply because I was having my surgery, and I've been doing magic loop 2 at a time, so I tried to put these, oh, there's a child up. I tried to put these on DPNs and do them, but my gauge was way too wonky, and I couldn't figure out with all of the sticks everywhere how to do it. That's why I worked on my pinwheel scrap blanket whenever I could do that, and that was like knitting with straight needles because I just used 2. It wasn't a circular thing. So those actually, I counted them up, and I think for Diane of Suburban Stitchers Rainbow Along, you are supposed to have 6 colors, or 5 of the 6 Roy G. Biv colors. So these actually qualify, so I might finish those because whips are allowed and encouraged, I believe is what she said. So these might be something that I work on getting done for February. Something else you've also seen is my azalea tank. This is probably I am definitely going to finish this. This is the bottom currently. But it is a tank top with like spaghetti straps, so it is not going to be wearable until at least like May. So I am not in any super rush to get back to this one, but it is one that I do plan to finish. That is out of Queensland Savannah collection, which is a silk and linen, I believe. It's quite lovely yarn. I like it a lot. I apologize. The 3-year-old is on the stairs right by me. Okay, so I'm gonna scoot those out of the way. I'm trying to think what might be the next most recent. Probably my owl blanket. I'm going to reach for that. So this was a blanket that I planned to do for Violet, who was born last May. And it was supposed to be, of course, done before she was born. Let me see. I did not look up the authors of a lot of this. Something that I noticed putting 30 whips out that are up to 6.5 years old is that the things that I knit, the yarn that I use, everything has changed a lot over that time period. I have really, I don't know if matured is the right word, definitely gotten into better, higher class yarns and patterns, truthfully. Sorry if I'm crinkling the papers. I'm trying to find the first page of this to see who this is by. It says The Hat and I, Designs by Markin. I'm not sure of any of the names other than that. But I currently have everything crocheted except I have 3 of my owls still need their eyeballs. The eyeballs are made and quite weird looking. So I have 3 left to sew those on, and then I'm ready to seam it. So I have all of the plain ones. There's some plain ones and the owls, the little squares, these like corner piece things, and they just need to be seamed together. And I believe they crochet together, so that actually won't be horrifyingly hard to do. Then I made Violet a dress before she was born, and this was the hat that went with it, and it's supposed to fold to the inside along this pearl bump, and it's supposed to be a sun hat, and I don't understand how it possibly could, because you didn't increase to make it like flip out like a sun hat is supposed to. So I've decided I am going to not finish this. I finished the dress and left this. It would probably still stretch around her head. I don't know if by summer it would when she's a year old, but I didn't like that it was gonna look like a beanie because it wasn't supposed to. So this is definitely a get rid of. And I think that's probably all of the really newer stuff, kind of current. Oh, there's this. So this is my Dreambird shawl, and it is out of Sweet Georgia. And I have 7 of the feathers done, so I believe I'm halfway. I think it's 16 that you do, so maybe a little less than halfway. This has a lot of short rows in it, so that is a lot of the reason why I haven't continued to work on it. I haven't worked on this since Violet was born in May, largely because I don't have a lot of time to sit and do short rows. At first, when I did the very first one, I found it extremely hard, but I think my knitting has really improved since then. I've done more stuff, so then it wasn't really hard, it's just a lot of short rows, and so I don't get a lot of time that's not interrupted to do that. So this is definitely something that I'm going to finish. This was probably the first shawl that I spent a significant amount of money on the yarn. And then the next thing I have is a owl pot holder. So this was from 2016, and in 2016, one of my New Year's resolutions was not to buy any yarn. So how that worked out, I did not buy any yarn for all of 2016. In 2017, I made up with it like gangbusters, and I went from Hobby Lobby stuff to Indie Dyed and yarn store pretty much. But it has 2 layers of the owl, and there are eyes. See if I can get this to stay on here. And a nose and eyeballs. And a tail and a stick and feet to go over the stick. So all this guy needs is to be seamed up. I don't remember at all where the pattern was. I don't have it printed out. I'm hoping I have a bookmark because I am going to finish this. It only needs to be sewn together. I really like the colors. I like owls. As you saw, I have an owl blanket for Violet. So I am going to finish that and see how it works out. I mean, it'll be 2 layers for a pot holder, so it's probably going to be okay, but we will see. All right. I do not see any more that are super new since we've been in Nebraska. So I really don't, at this point, have a lot of idea when I worked on pretty much the rest of the stuff. So I'm just going to kind of flow through it. This you have seen before. It's my dad's shawl. I didn't have enough yarn, so I put this yarn in it. And I'm showing it again because this next Monday, I believe, will be its 4-year birthday. I started this on my dad's birthday at his house, his last birthday, and it will be finished by the end of the year. I am ready to put on the other lace panel in the blue on the other side, and then it will be all done. But because it is having a birthday, I decided to go ahead and show that to you guys again. I'm sorry, this is so disjointed, and I don't mean for it to be, but I should have... There were too many of them to be in front of me anyways, so that's part of the reasoning why I have to keep looking off. This is something that I started... I can't remember if this is a paid for pattern or not, so I won't hide this. This is the Eastern Market Tote by Tanis Gray. And all I have of it is the provisional cast on and a few rows. This I'm actually going to frog. But I'm still going to make the tote with the same yarn. I believe this is Pima Cotton from Cascade. Instead of doing the straps, I did get handles to make with it. When I started this, I was using an 8, and it seems really, really loose to me for something that's supposed to hold stuff. I don't know how well you can see that because the provisional cast on keeps rolling up, and there's not very much of it. But this is not worth saving to me. I'd rather just start over. So that will be frogged, but still made into the same thing with the same yarn. that's definitely all the stuff that I've worked on since we've lived here, which has been about 2.5 years. So this was a Bolero that I started, and truthfully, I think I only have this like sleeve ending left. See, there's a sleeve ending over here, but not here. The bottom is finished. This was part of a craftsy class that I took, and it's a Bolero. I don't really wear Boleros at all. It's also made out of acrylic, which I won't wear. My husband laughed when I pulled this out and said, I can't believe you made that. You're never going to wear that. So it's definitely a no-go project. But it was one of my first like lace and definitely my first garment type make. So it served its purpose. It taught me some stuff, but it has got no more life with me. And then I have a couple of Christmas things. So I wanted to make Christmas stockings. I don't even know if you can see this picture, it's so little. I wanted to make stockings for everybody in my nuclear family. Not the one that I made myself, but the one I grew up in. And so I spent a lot of time. It has like letter charts. I believe this was free knitted Christmas stockings on Ravelry. So I spent a lot of time making people's names out I'm the oldest of 5, so all the kids that I had at the time, I can't remember if Isaiah was born or not. The only one I ever did was my mom's, who goes by Nana, and it's completely done knitting wise and duplicate stitching wise, except for needing all of these lovely ends to be woven in. I guess I could hang them this way. And to be sewn up. I do not plan on finishing any other stockings, but I think that I might ask my mom if she wants this and go ahead and give it to her. If she doesn't, it's not going to hurt my feelings, and I'm not going to make any more. I purged most of this yarn, though looking for whips today, I found some more of it, and it was it was several of the 144 skeins that I gifted away to my sister, who's a new crocheter. So I will see if she wants that, otherwise it will be in the get rid of pile. And then I also started the Karen Crochet Christmas Tree Skirt, which would eventually look like this. Sorry, there's a shadow now because of where the lamp is, but the cats kept knocking it off of its precarious position. If I left it where it was. Trying to see which way this goes. I think this way. So this is what I have of the tree skirt. Makes a very lovely bib. This is going in the frogging pile. It is no longer really my style. I have a nice teal blue one that I love. I don't know. I'm not in love with it like I thought I would be. And I also was back then, so this is definitely a goodbye one. I also started a blanket for, that was all my Christmas stuff, right? Yeah. I started a blanket for my middle sister. I have 3 sisters. So the one in the middle of them, and she had green, cream, brown decorations in her house. And I had a book, I don't remember what it was called, but it had a bunch of different, both crocheted and knitted, obviously, since there's granny squares, blocks that you could make. And so I was going to make her a blanket with all these blocks. I'm sure that there are more of them than I found today. That one's really rolly. And then I found one that was even at least partway on the needle. This is something I'm definitely not going to finish. I'm sure that there are more of these floating around somewhere back in my basement. I haven't worked on this forever. I don't really know that it's her style, but I also know that I have so many other things that I want to do that I'm definitely not going to make the time to make a blanket this size with this much work plus the seaming for that particular sister. Well, really for any of them. Caitlin knows how to crochet, as I showed you last week, so truthfully, if she wanted to make her own, she could, but I'm not into this anymore. That same year, I also plan to make her husband, who is a Green Bay Packers fan, a pillow. And it's pretty much done. So there's a pocket here where the pillow form would go in, and then this was supposed to stretch over and like have buttons sewn on it, or like I just was gonna sew it down, so it's kind of like an envelope, and it would be closed like this. This is hideous. Ooh, it's changing the colors of me. They are Green Bay Packers fans, but I don't know that anybody, unless they are like Green Bay Packers John Deere fanatics, would want something this horrendously colored in their house. So even though it's pretty much done, I'm not gonna finish it either. Yeah, it's going bye-bye. This was another scarf that I started for my husband in his school colors when he was at seminary. And this was probably one of the first things that I tried to do when we were in Dubuque. Because this was when I didn't know about stockinette stitch curling. I find it so funny now. I can't believe I ever didn't know that. But yeah, so I tried to make him a stockinette stitch scarf, did not understand why it kept doing this, and so I got online and found out, and so then I said, forget it, I'll start over. And I did make him a seed stitch, which took me forever because back then I was a thrower, and so switching back between the pearls and knits was horrible. But that is definitely a goodbye pile. My mom works at the VA, and one of the ladies there that knits was teaching people to knit, to make like the scarves for like the Knit Your Bit memorial type scarves. And so my mom did the cast on in the first like 2 rows and then decided there was no way she was going to do it. And so I took it to do it, but this is all the longer it ever got. And it is definitely not going to. This is also kind of an old one because I did not know about starting stripes on the right side. So I have lines on every single one. So that's a goodbye pile. Sorry, paper crinkling. I had planned to make this little throw for my grandma and my husband's grandma. It's the crochet one skein throw from Red Heart. I didn't do it with Red Heart yarn, but it is a very warm and cozy blanket. Definitely not finishing it. For one thing, my beginning chain is so tight that it's just like completely crumpled up. But I don't enjoy that and don't like those kind of patterns anymore, so it's goodbye. Something I tried to do for my daughters was make them some leg warmers. They are definitely not this little now. I believe that this was probably made when Emma was 3 or 4 and Lizzie was 1. They are 9 and 6 now, so I'm not going to finish these. Violet's a ways from being able to wear this, so I'm definitely not going to do that, though I have been thinking about making her some leg warmers in general. That's still connected to the yarn, so I will have to cut that off before I toss it. And I have these hay bale mitts, I believe is what they were called. And I can't tell which is the wrong side and which is the right side. I think this is right. This was a Laura Nelkin design. Can you see the stitch at all? A little bit, maybe. I feel like this was one of the mystery knit along things. Like, where you got the yarn and everything. I'm not sure that I'm going to finish these. I still have the yarn, but I don't have the pattern. At least I haven't been able to find it, and I know that I did not knit it exactly to pattern. So being able to get it exactly the same, I don't know that I would be able to, and this is pretty tight down here. So this may not, this is, I'm not sure if I'm going to make the other one or not. It is a beautiful purple, and it's a soft yarn, but I'm not sure about it. So it's going to be kind of, that's the first I'm unsure about pile. Another blanket that I started that was intended to be for Isaac, who is the 3-year-old. Oh, there's a pin in that. Lovely. I have absolutely no idea how to say the name of this. It's Solus Coamh, C-O-A-M-H, I believe. I think it's a Spanish word. But this is crocheted cables, which I was very intrigued by, and I enjoyed it. This, obviously, it's kind of ends up being a square. I didn't buy enough yarn to make it long enough to be something that he can use now as a 3-year-old. When I started this, I'm pretty sure he was like 9 months old, if even that. I think I intended it to be for his first birthday, possibly. It is cotton fleece from Brown Sheep Company, and it's this color, which is Deep Sea Fog, and was supposed to have a border out of Hawaiian Sky, which is this lovely teal blue. I think I am going to finish this, but instead of its intended recipient, it will probably go to Violet. I think this is the side. And I do have the repeats marked, so that will maybe help. I think, if I remember correctly, there might be 8 and there are 6 here, and then there was a little bit of a beginning, which I assume that means that there would be a little bit of an ending. So I'm well over halfway, and I'm going to finish that and have it be for Violet instead. That is all the relatively newer-ish stuff. this was something that I was intending to make, and I have no idea why. There is no way that I had my right mind when I thought I would want to seam all of these little tiny squares together. But I counted, and I have 156 of them. All these tiny squares. All of them. See, I can't even hold them. Not gonna finish it. I looked at the pattern. I was surprised I could actually find the book, to tell you the truth. And I have all of the off-white, the lighter blue, and the red. And then I needed 124 of the navy ones. And there's absolutely no way that I want to crochet all those little tiny squares and then whip stitch them. It would take me forever. It's just not something I'm interested in at all. So all 156 of these are going bye-bye. Should I could count that as 156 things because they are not seamed together. And they're everywhere. It's like those popcorn, those shipping popcorn things. Crazy. I think most of the stuff that I have left are blankets. Well, no. This one is pretty old. It's out of the Itty Bitty Toys by Susan B. Anderson. And I was going to make some little blocks for Isaiah when he was a baby. And I know that I have more than this, but I had several different sizes. There were some red ones and some yellow that I had done already, but I'm definitely not going to finish these. Again, the seaming. We have lots of blocks that we've been given. By the time we've gotten to 5 kids, you've gotten pretty much every toy that you could possibly need. So I'm just not going to do those. Hair on my lip gloss or something. Okay, so then this was the Bernat Baby Sport Round Blanket to Crochet. It was likely a free pattern because back then I did not understand why you would pay for patterns. I was wrong, just public service announcement. I do not still have that opinion. And this has been like finished off, like I knotted the end. So this was intended to be for Lizzie, who is the 6-year-old. I still feel like I have hair on me. And I think the only thing that it lacks is a border. I think there was like a ruffly border on it. I really don't like how tiny these little things are. It was a pain in the butt to crochet. I haven't decided on this whether to kind of use it as a floor blanket for Violet or not. I am not going to do the ends because it is sort of done-ish, even though it drives me crazy because you can't really like flatten it out. I think if it's on the floor, you can kind of shove it out so it's kind of flat and there's not huge wrinkles in it, but I'm not a fan of it. I would never use it for anything but for her to just like play on. But since it's kind of usable as a blanket, I might donate it or something somewhere. I don't know where we have around here that would need or want something like that, but I think that's maybe possible. This was also intended for her. And it's a granny square that is very little, so it's just a little bit wider than my shoulders. This is very wonky. So I'm not sure if it was just that my gauge was a lot tighter or the yarn hook combination. I'm not sure, but again, not gonna finish it. Not really a fan of it. It lacks anything for me to love. So, also going in the dump pile. This one's fun. Okay, so when I first started getting into crocheting more, I did a mystery crochet along with the crochet crowd and started making this blanket. It's out of Karen Simply Soft, and I don't know if anybody participated in this, but I have 19 squares right here. I am assuming that there are probably 20 and we just didn't see it in the box, but they're all to the same point, and I believe that the next step was to seam it together, but it was like this crazy seaming, and so I didn't do it. The other reason that I didn't do it was because of the way, well, I don't know if it's just the way that I chose my colors or if we would have thought this anyway, and it looks less like what I'm going to say now than it did when I first crocheted it. But when I was putting this pink in, and there's like 2 or 3 rows after that, so you can kind of see what it looked like. My friend would sit across the room and giggle every time that she saw one of the blocks because it looks like male genitalia. Thank you, Kirsten. So this has affectionately been named the penis blanket, and for that reason I probably won't finish it. And because it's pretty crazy. Like, I don't know what I would even do with this. I'm pretty sure this yarn is some of it that I sent off to my sister. I mean, I'm not against crazy, so I might see if she would be interested in it. I'm not going to finish it because anytime that my husband or I look at it, we immediately think of Kirsten giggling, and I don't need a penis blanket. So. Okay, I skipped over a couple of things besides blankets. So another thing that was intended to be for Lizzie, so is over 6 years old, this was supposed to be a little baby cocoon. This is with my old boy needles, the ones that my husband saw and said, I'm not going to learn how to knit with those crappy needles that you learned to knit with. They're very heavy. I thought about finishing it for Violet, and I didn't. It is out of Line Brand Homespun. Not a fan of that yarn anyways. It feels soft, but once it gets washed, to me, it's really scratchy, so I don't know whether to finish this off and find a baby to give it to or not. I have quite a bit of yarn left to be able to make it a little bit longer and then down it. Down it. I don't even know what that means. Decrease it and close it up, because obviously this is intended to be the top. But I just kind of made a tube. But obviously Lizzie did not benefit from this, nor did Violet, because she is now 8 months old, so she would never be able to fit in that. Oh, that was the undecided. So it goes over here. I only have one so far. Okay, so the last thing before my other ones is the Bello Casamento Shrug, which was another Craftsy mystery thing where you got the yarn, like mystery kit, where you got the yarn and there was kind of a tutorial to do. This one was by Marley Bird. The pattern doesn't have a picture of it, but basically it's a big long tube or a big long rectangle that you make. And then you're going to seam it and make a collar. And I tried to count on it today. And I think I'm 2 lace repeats away from the rectangle being done. And obviously it's lace and would need to be blocked like crazy. I'm undecided about this. I think if I had it, it might be my style. I don't have anything like this in my closet. It is a lace weight shrug, so it would maybe be good for church in the summer, or if we go to weddings, which I don't go to very many weddings. So maybe if you have an opinion about this one, let me know, because I don't know whether to finish this or not. I think it would be pretty. Not sure if I would wear it, or if I just think that because I don't have anything like it. But that was, let me see if there's a date on this at all. This was before we moved, for sure. This was in Dubuque, but I do not see any sort of date saying where it was for, but it was one of those monthly things that they did when they were doing monthly mystery knit along things where you got the yarn. So that is in the undecided pile. And then the last 2 I have a bit of a story. They let me see, how do I approach this? So in 2012, we ended up pregnant, and that's actually, I was pregnant when we went to Canada, and shortly thereafter, I had my 6th miscarriage. So I had the idea to make some blankets and take them to the hospital where Lizzie had been born, and then later Isaac ended up being born, that I would make and take to the hospital and ask them to give them to a baby that was born as close around the due date of my baby as possible. So I started out with the boy one, which is, they're just granny squares. They are not big enough for a blanket, really. It looks kind of big on the screen, but again, it's not super big. I'm not a wide person, and it's not that far past my shoulder. So that one was the one for the boy, and I also, even though I, in my heart, thought that we were having a boy, made one for a girl. This one is a lot funkier. I don't know what the difference was in my crocheting, but it's a lot tighter and kind of has that same like curly problem. I think this, I also, for sure on the girl one, I didn't do that magic loop thing. Or maybe I was trying to make this a rectangle, because there's a whole bunch in that center. I don't know. But anyways. So this was the girl one. It's kind of funky. This is worsted weight yarn, but the little stitches are really tiny and they're tight and kind of hard. The boy one is better, but it is not finished. And so this one I think is definitely going to go in the goodbye pile. The boy one, which colors are for everyone, so it doesn't have to be for a boy, but I think unless Lizzie is really, really wanting it for a doll blanket or something, I'm probably not going to finish it. That baby was 16 weeks, and it was a very hard one for me to kind of get over and accept. Not really get over, that's not what the right word, but I don't think this is something that I want to work on anymore. I think it's something that I need to put in the let go of pile. So I think that's probably what's going to do with this one, because I don't know that I would really want to work on it anymore. And plus it was 2012, so the probability of the dye lots matching very well isn't great. I don't know what else I would do with a small blanket like this, but I think that is all of the whips. I don't have any more hiding behind me. Nope. So if you have an opinion about the projects that I'm unsure about, or if you have an opinion on the order of rainbow stuff that I should do for the Rainbow Along by Suburban Stitcher, you can comment on the show notes. Let me know your opinion, because I'm really indecisive and it helps for people to tell me stuff. And because I don't want to try to break myself trying to do all of it, which is what I really kind of want to do. Also, make sure that you go to the introduction thread in the Ravelry group and introduce yourself. That is where I will be pulling the winner of the Knit's Best Thing United States themed Canadian made bag. It's and needle cozy. You can see it right here. I don't want to keep taking it out of the plastic, so that's why it's hiding in there, folded. My house is... A cat just fell down the curtains. Between my cats and my kids, I want to keep it nice. So while we're waiting to get up to 50 subscribers, then it can live in its plastic where it's safe before it can come home with you. I will keep drawing until I've responded to a lot of the introductions. So I'll just keep drawing until I draw an actual person that's not me. And then I will send that out to you and maybe, you know, stick a few things in there. You can also share what some of your goals are in the 2018 creative goals. And I will be maybe doing like pattern prizes for that. I think that's all the administrative stuff I have. Oh, also for the Rainbow Along, I have my hat that I'm designing because I'm pretty sure it has at least 5 of the colors. But I don't actually know where it is right now. That's kind of crazy. But I didn't bring it over here, so I can't show it to you. It's probably about halfway done. If you're interested in testing, I would be looking for people to do that, probably maybe 2 or 3. And it will hopefully be written for everyone from like baby to adult. The one I am making right now is kind of the middle youth size. It's for Emma. So there's that. And I really think that's it. If you have any questions for me or topic ideas that you'd like to hear about, there is a thread in the Ravelry group for that as well. Go ahead and subscribe so we can get up to our giveaway, and make sure that you've introduced yourself. I've already said that like 5 times. So I hope that you have enjoyed the podcast, and
I think we need more Michael.
Said no one ever. Happy knitting. So I realized after I turned off the video that I had forgotten completely to do my Life in a Manse updates, and it's been a little bit of a week, so I decided that I would add that in here, kind of vlog style. I'm trying really hard to hold the phone super still, but we'll see. Also, I felt like I kind of like left it in a bummer spot, and so I didn't want that to be the last thing that you heard from me this week. So, anyways, I think this past week we had a sick baby. Violet was sick from like Monday until Thursday. She was running like 102 temp, and it was just not pleasant. She was really cuddly, so that part was nice, and she actually took naps, which is not normal. She's still waking up through the night all the time. I don't know why. None of my other kids have done this. I don't know what's up. But yeah, so there's that. And now that she's better, she has remained cuddly, which is kind of nice. And she took a nap yesterday without being sick, so that was good too. We had a storm on Sunday, and in the middle of the night, I guess, it kind of started. And we had a blizzard warning. Ended up, I think the news said we got like 12 inches. You can't really tell because some places there's like half an inch and it's drifted to like 3 feet in other places. But the kids have been off of school for 2 days now. The first day, like, it started out great. About 30 minutes after we got up, we're just sipping our coffee. It's a snow day. I was so happy. I don't like my kids going to school and being gone all day and away from me. And so it was great. And then within 30 minutes, the power went off. And so then it was a whole bunch of, what are we going to do all day without knitting podcasts, without decent light, because it was storming enough that the light was really dim, even with all of the curtains open. I wasn't as worried about the heat as knitting podcasts and knitting light and Netflix for the kids. That's a must. I don't know how our parents raised us without videos in the cars and Netflix. But anyways, it came on about an hour and a half later. A lot of the rest of the town did not. It was like 2:30 before theirs came back on. And out in the country, it was even worse, way longer. We thought we were in the clear. We put up on Facebook that if anybody needed, cooking facilities or to get warmed up, they could come to the church. We'd open it up. The heat was going. About 30 minutes after we did that, our power went out, which also was the church's power. And so then we were like, well, nobody called. Nobody was like, yeah. Because the thing was that you couldn't really drive. It was blowing. You couldn't see. There was snow everywhere. The roads were terrible. So we weren't really sure if, other than maybe like the people on the west side of town, in this town of 1,200 people, would make it. Like the country people who'd been out all day, I didn't figure could probably make it unless they were right next to the highways, which they were trying to scrape some. But so right as it was getting dark, and we were completely unprepared because we'd had power for most of the day and it had been restored to the other part of the town, our power goes out. So yeah, I found a flashlight that was like this long, and we had to go and get some candles from the church and sit here in the dark, and our kids freaked out. They were scared. It was pretty stressful. Also, we had just like put stuff on the stove for supper, and then now we couldn't make anything. So it was cereal for supper, and it decided to come back on at like 9:30 when it was time to go to bed. School was canceled again today. Looks like tomorrow they're probably going back. I was kind of hoping that they wouldn't, depending on how the country roads were doing, because that would be the big thing around here. But we haven't heard anything, so they're probably going. This is a week that I taught my husband to knit. I am drawing a blank on anything else. I had a meeting on Saturday all day long, which was very boring. And I did find my hat that I said I wasn't sure where it is. So this is how it's looking so far. It's got these diamond shapes, twisted rib on for the brim, and it pulls differently. Like, I'm actually really loving this. It's for Emma, and she has kind of a crazy taste in coloring anyway, so I feel like this pulling is something that's right up her alley. This is Jilly from Dream in Color, and it's a single ply, but this is the hat that I'm designing. I can't think of anything else. I had some packages that I was going to show you today. One that my husband got for me, and the other was my Hedgehog Club for January. And it looked like the stuff from Ireland was going to get here before the stuff from Texas. And then they both just got stopped in their tracks because of the blizzard. So next week, I can't think of anything else. So I hope that you're staying warm and enjoying your knitting. That was the other thing about the power being out when it was dark. I had nothing to knit on that I could knit on in the dark. I finished the purl row in the lace repeat of my sister shawl, and of course my hat is something I need to see. My socks that I showed as a finished object, they were to the point that I needed to put in the ribbing, but I hadn't started it, so I couldn't really like see it. And that yarn with the needles that I used was kind of splitty anyway, so I wasn't sure that I could do that in the dark. So that was part of the reason I was going so crazy, but that was not fun. The morning one wasn't so bad, but anyways, I think that's about it. I hope you have a great week, and I will see you again. Happy knitting!